I've been doing this like 3.5 years, almost 4 years, and I love to cover football. I love meeting all you people, but it has been I came in Mr. Hopium in 2021, and as I started doing this thing, one of the important things I said I want to do is be honest and try to be accurate. And as I dug into the franchise like I hadn't ever done before in 2021, I began to find a lot of skeletons in the closet that I just didn't pay attention to. Then we had the flip in the new coaching staff, and I was hoping, just like 2019, that the leadership finally figured things out and got it right. I didn't really like Chris Greer. I didn't like the build. But I said, let me see what's going on. I mean, you got Waddle and Hill. This is something we've never seen before. And then you saw the production, 10.6, 10.7 yards per pass, and throwing it 235. I think clean down was like two something. Insane. Obviously, the injuries for Tua came. And then the line started breaking down, which was one of my concerns. But I love the addition of Tehran, it sans the injuries. And I love the addition of Connor. I actually called him the center. But then you could see things break down on the offensive line. I was expecting the next season to be different. He really didn't add much. Kind of some curious decisions with Eichenberg at center. But I said, let me see. And we hung in there and showed some stuff, but you could clearly see at the end with the injuries, the offensive line, the team construction. I mean, injuries played a major part, but it wasn't good enough. Then we went in this season and we heard all this talk about the offensive line. Some people are hot to trot on it right now for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to get into this game and show you some stuff for context. But it's been very, very hard to see this team as you see it analytically, but then present it to people and then try to be a fan at the same time. But here we are, 2-6. It feels like we're dead, but all the talk is offensive line's good. We're on the road to the miraculous comeback, and it's going to start here. And I don't think it can't. A great person in one of many comments said there's only been 3 teams that come back from 2-6, and one of them ended up 7-9. And so 7-9, you ain't getting that kind of record to get in the playoffs this season. So only 2 other teams really presented a good record after 2-6 start. And so now I find myself in this unenviable position to tell people, look, this is not good, but there's so much hopium push, which, I mean, could play out. Let's see until it doesn't. I mean, people will say, stop saying this is the last big game, but we can't call it if we want to be evaluators until it's officially over. You never know. But the likelihood is very low. But we could find ourselves in 7, 8 wins and all the opium. We're going to get this whole thing back next year. Could it get fixed? Could Greer finally figure things out? Could we? I guess. But how much data do you need? So here we are in the Rams game. And from what I've seen in the past, a lot of this stuff, the people talking about this and that, it seems not rational. But I couldn't be wrong. So I'm going to present the Rams to you as I see them. I'm going to present you the teams we played with Tua and who they are, and you're going to see, well, these aren't great teams. And so if we're struggling against these not so great teams, and that includes the Bills, then where are we really at? What is this about? Is this about Super Bowls? Is this about trying to make us look good enough to keep the next year going? Is it about going to the postseason, yay, and get knocked out first round? Maybe things will explode. Maybe things will change. But so far, I don't get all this hopium. But I'm hoping, no pun intended, that I'm wrong. So I made this graphic up. Take a look at here. This is Majay. These are the teams we faced with Tua. And you're going to see they're not hot to trot. And you're going to see, as my man Scott, says that football is a game of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And I added into that to say, yeah, it is, and it's kabuki theater combined. And if you don't understand what that means, is it's all war's deception. Art of war Sun Tzu. That's the way it is here. You want them to think that you're running a football and a play action, but you're really passing. You want them to think that you're passing, but you're really running the football. You want them to think you're going over here, so you do a boot roll out and attack the other side. It's all about taking from Peter and putting into Paul, and hopefully they're weak on that side and you can blow them open. Football's not about just lining up and just doing what you want to do. I mean, teams like Dallas Cowboys in the 90s could do that more than most, but very, very few teams. It's about a few plays where you catch them with their pants down in kabuki theater and you hurt them. So how are teams playing us? We're saying, oh, this offensive line's so good and run game's so good. You can't deny the numbers, but how they generate it. So you can see, look at our opponent defensive pass yards per game. The different color gradings from green to red is we met their averages or didn't or exceeded it. So AZ, we played last week, they averaged 242 a game, and we got 234 in a pass game. They played 3 high, and they blitzed us a little bit, but they left the underneath open. Buffalo, who are not as good as we remember them, they're only 16th ranked in the league at 225 a game, and we got 145 week 1. You could say that was just a bad game. Okay, let's move forward. We got 231 this week, 6 yards more than their average. Jacksonville, we blew them open, 338, but they're the 31st ranked pass defense in the league. Not good. And, is that really how we're going to base ourselves? Because if you look at the rest of Jacksonville, they stink. And maybe. So when you look at the run attacks, and you got to pair them together. The run defense over here and the pass defense, they work hand in hand along with the offense. It all works in synergy. That's what football is. And so if you know you're really weak in one area and you're coming against a team that's really strong in one area, you've got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul to make that area stronger. They're going to blow you out. And so my theory is, or my contention is, that defense is just playing all out pass and letting us run and then trying to get the offensive output out there to win in the end. So the production is good in the run game, but how's the pass game working out? So AZ is 22nd, and they give up 132. We got 150. Nice day. But they're not a good run defense. Not a really good pass defense. Buffalo, only 15th, 16th and 15th. Mediocre defense. 123. We got 139 week 1 and 149 week 2. These are all above the averages, but how did all these teams play us? Arizona blitzed us, but they played 3 high. Buffalo did not blitz us and played 2 high. They left the underneath. That creates space. It makes it easier for the job for the offensive lineman, and then it creates space for awesome running backs, except most of them fumbling. Jalen Wright, especially A-Chain with the speed and the wiggle, to have that space and not to get a clogged front and have to battle their way through tacklers. But then, you look at Jacksonville, we played week 1. They were the 16th rush offense. And obviously the 31st worst pass defense. They averaged 125 on the season. We had 81. But what's the difference between them and the other teams? They have a lot of talent up front. Small, but their line and linebackers is a nice group of talent. And they were dominating us until their offense fell off the charts, and we kept running and finally wore them out. But you can see here that they managed us. And in some ways, Jacksonville has a similar look to the Rams in overall design on defense, not offense, on defense. So, but you look at the offensive points, and it's about points. So if you're a defense and you're really not a good defense, and maybe you're not a real good pass defense, you load the secondary, let teams run, especially a team like the Dolphins with an awesome receiving talent. You fear the quick points. You play over and over and over, and then as you get closer to the red zone, it gets harder, and that speed talent gets mitigated. And so what are the points? So Arizona gives up 24 a game. We exceeded that, which is good. It should offer hope to some people, but it was only by 3 points. But they're 19th. Buffalo is 8th, very good at 19. So 19 points a game. So they're really good at letting teams run, and get to the red zone and getting that 3. And then they'll come back and put the 7, as my man Tommy Mafia Sports Report says. You can say it's all on 2, I guess, 10 points. This week, though, we exceeded it by 8. So 27 this week. So you got to be happy about that. Jacksonville, 28 points a game, and we got 20 in our win. This game this week, I'm going to show you the Rams and who they are the last 3 weeks and us and the anomalies. And so it's going to come down to this offense putting on probably 30. I think the 27 losses was good output, but not against our defense and not when you need your offense to win the game for you with considering all that we've invested. But it's very hard to do when everyone's playing over the top and you kind of struggle a little bit in the red zone. We stall out in the red zone just a little bit too much. Not like last year, but a little bit too much so far. But this has not been a good group of players, teams that we've faced. Now, you look at the defense this week, they struggle with their safety group. They struggle with their slot group. They got one really good defender, Williams. The rest of the guys are, The linebackers are good stopping the run, but not good at covering. But the front, Verse is an animal. He might be the most powerful guy we've seen on the edge, and he's a wrecker. Fisk has shown a lot. Browning the third, he's a very good player, a little bit bigger, not super big. They're not a huge front. It's kind of like Jacksonville. And then Turner's a little bit of a smaller guy, but he's pretty effective too, especially in the run game. And so what you're seeing here really has a lot of parallels to the Jacksonville game on defense. So the people who are talking about this offensive line and this run game, you'll get a fair amount of validity by doing what you do this week. But really, it's got to be about, and they don't blitz, so I think they're playing the high shell, and they're going to let the front manage like a lot of teams do, and they're going to see if they can get the pressure that they want. But if you can get that run game off this week, it's going to tip a hat to you. And I'm not talking about 100 yards because they're probably playing too high, and that means keeping everything depending on the leverage that we see. But you're going to have to pass your way through this thing. Because if you look at the other side, they're off, even despite the loss of their right tackle. He's out. They have a decent enough offensive line. They got Stafford, who is a vet, who's a Super Bowl winner. He's got unbelievable arm talent still, and he can move. But he's got Robinson, Kupp, and Nakua. And so when I show you how these three teams are trending, you can see that this pass game is going to be huge, and it's going to be up to us to keep points on, to keep the first downs coming so we can wear that defense out. Our defense doesn't get worn out because this is going to likely be a point-scoring game. And 27, while it might feel good as a moral victory, we're probably going to need that 30 range. And if you look at the teams, how they're trending, there's some good things for us, a lot of good things for them. They've played some pretty tough teams. They played the Raiders, not so tough. But Seahawks, who are a tough team, they played in their house, and they played Minnesota. Minnesota's very tough. And so when you look at their trends, their points per game is 21st on the season, 21.3, but the last three games, they're 12th at 25.3. Their offensive run yards per game, this is an important one for us, is 24th on the season, but the last three games, and it means a lot because Vegas can kind of run, Seahawks can kind of sort of run, and Minnesota definitely can run, but they've gone from 22nd, 24th, 135, down to 10th, 97.7. And so if they can control that front with their four guys and not give up so many big plays and get us a little bit more off schedule, a little bit on your schedule stuff, that's going to go a long way. And that's one of the reasons why we struggled against Jacksonville. Not saying they're going to, but when you look at us, our offensive points per yards per game, they've gone up to 27 the last two, was 15.5 on the season, but that 27 is the number that we've got to hit, and probably higher this week. But our offensive points per Offensive points per game allowed on defense has gone up as well from 23.4 to 24.7. And that has been the difference kind of in our losses. But now we're facing a potent secondary, and this is the big problem. Well, offensive pass yards per game went from fourth all the way to 14th, 195 to 223. Now, Sealer hasn't been in, Holland hasn't been in, Coe hasn't been in. So those three guys are going to be keys to get this down. But when you see the points kind of rising, even though our points are rising, but their pass yards are rising, and you can see that they can kind of been looking better. The Rams stopping that run, and then they can pass the football. You can see we're going to have to pass and have a more successful day than usual. So that's what I see so far. I'm hoping we win, but what we face so far isn't indicative of a really good team having a tough schedule. We missed two, and you got to add that in. But we have a very tough schedule going forward, and we've got to do much better than we've done before. We're going to be facing much better teams, and it could end up doing the same thing we've seen in the past with a late season collapse. But without the quick start, it could be very ugly. And if it is very ugly, we've got to be unified in saying it's time to scrap this, but we're not there yet. This Monday night game is going to be critical for hopes, but the door should be closed on a loss. But even the unhopeful, if we win this game, it's an incredible enough victory to just keep that lifeline out there. It's going to be a whole long year before we get back to this NFL season. Whatever happens, let's just try to enjoy this thing as much as we can. Anyway, Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.